Episode 10 of moving my game from Godot to Unit. Episode 10 of moving a game from Unit to Godot, that's what I meant to say. So here's a little sum. Yesterday I came off work and I tried to make what I was finishing off in the previous episode, which was the consumable items. And I did make it. As you can see, now I can pick up this, right click, and use. And it will actually work on the stats. Well, you can't see it right now, but it's working. Now, in order to do that, I had to do a few things. First, I made my stat a class, or it would extend the resource, but it's a class. And it basically has its name, value, max value, min value, value is full or value is empty, and then it had a constructor. It had a function to clamp the value, then it had add to value and remove from value. And it also had its own custom signal on value updated. And now that I had that class, I made a character stats which contain health and stamina. This is for general use, like all the NPCs are gonna have health and stamina. And all it does is it initializes them by creating a new stat. Now, for now, this is all just getting set to 100, but later on I probably want to load from disk what you saved last time. And then I made player stats, which extends character stats, but also has hunger and thirst. And then I have a stats controller script, which has a couple of variables, a couple more functions for using the timers for the hunger, thirst, and stamina. And that's all working really good. I just connected it to the UI, and in the UI I connect all the update health, stamina, hunger, thirst UI to the functions from the stats and then the actual stat. So now whenever I want a stat, I can just get this resource called stats player, and then I can just pass it wherever I need it. And that allowed me to create a consumable item, pass it stats, and then just say stats.health, add to value, and add the health value of the consumable item. I also created a new function from for the inventory, and now the inventory, the item container, has a function to remove quantity add, because I currently had remove item and I had remove add. Now, why remove item couldn't work is because if I had, for example, 2 stacks or 1 stack of canned tuna and then half a stack of canned tuna, if I use this stack, it would actually just go to the first slot and remove from there. Now that's not what I wanted, so now I can set a quantity and I index and just tell it to remove a quantity amount from the index. And if it removes everything, it just removes the item. And that was all working fine and dandy, but I just wanted, I got a notification that that work for today was cancelled. So I was like, great, now I don't have to go to sleep as early and I can just start making something else. So I tried making a Hotbar, and I got a little mad, or I got a little frustrated, I would say. Couldn't you just scale, keep the aspect ratio, but scale it down at least that? Or am I just dumb? I'm probably just dumb. Okay, yeah, enough for today. I'm done. This is with good reasoning, I think. But at that point, I was like, okay, well, I'll just make something else tomorrow, and then I'll put all that into one video. Just continuing from what I was doing tomorrow, now I want to make a hotbar. And the hotbar is actually just an extension of the inventory, because the inventory currently has 30 slots, and I'm pretty sure I made it 38 yesterday because we're going to have 8 on the hotbar. So the hotbar is just going to be this inventory, but like slots in a different parent, I think. That's the best way to explain it, yes. Alright, so that was pretty simple. And also what I did yesterday when I was setting this up, I added some variables to the inventory slot, because I'll be using the same inventory slot as the inventory does. And I added a couple of variables saying if it is a hotbar slot. And all that does is, if it's a hotbar slot, so basically what I was doing with the slot index, so the slot index was used to get the item from the inventory, so the item and the slots were connected using a integer. And for the item slots, it was just get index, and it would get its child index, or the order in the tree. But if it's a hotbar slot, because they're not in the same parent, as you can see, parent slots are here, 30 of them, and then these are in a different parent. So if it's a hotbar slot, I set it to 30 plus the index. So basically 31, 32, 33, 34, and so on. Also, I added a boolean for can hover and can right click item. And basically all that does is just limit the functionality of the hover and the right click by using that variable. So for the hotbar slots, I would set it to is hotbar slot, and I would disable the hover and the right click. And that's it. And that should work fine. And as you can see, now we have that, and I can just drag it into here. I can't do anything with it yet. This is as far as I've gotten. And let me just move the stats a bit lower. I think they're a bit too high up, which I have to eyeball since I can't see the whole thing. Yeah, perfect. That's good. So I did add a bunch of input maps for the UI hotbar, and they're just physical keys of the numbers from 1 through to 8. And now I want to just call the functions from that, depending on which button I clicked. Now I also did add a new type of resource, which is action data. Now this is something I did in Unity as well, not in this way because I wasn't thinking. But currently, whenever you select a slot, it will just say save it to this resource, say current selected slot. So now if I right click on an item in an inventory, it goes to action data, sets the current slot. That way I can just pass it around, because you can see in the consumable item, I want to remove quantity at a certain selected slot, and that allows me to remove from the correct item. And I'm going to use the same method from this for the action data to do it with the hotbar. Now, one more thing I want to do is also have a variable for is using action, which is of type bool, and this is of type int as well. Now this, for example, I was talking about this in the original Unity video, is things like picking up items and attacking and switching weapons or stuff like that are all actions. And I don't want to be able to pick up an item if I am switching a weapon, for example. So whenever I switch a weapon, I would set is using action to true, and then I can check if in some other places I can use this to check for that. In my right click menu, if whenever I want to show the right click thingy, I would just check if action data dot is using action is true, then I would just return and not allow myself to do it. Now I would also need a function in the action data that would over time do some things. Now action data is a resource, so I can't do it with that. I can use a process to do it because action data doesn't have a process, but I would need some kind of an action manager, but we're gonna get to that in the future. Also in the interaction controller, I probably want to add that as well. I really like that Godot has these. You don't have to do this. You can just say or. It's much more readable. Or action data is using action is true, then we just pass or return probably here. Alright, so let's get to use with the hotbar. So in Unity, I think I did it in the UI controller, handled all the input, and I already have a function for handle UI input, and that just controls the I key. I think this is the I key, and toggles the inventory. I also want to do some other things. I want to say if input dot is action just pressed or just released. Probably I'll go for that, and I should probably change this to released. So it doesn't do it immediately as you press a key, it does it as you let go of a key. And now I have UI hotbar 1. Okay, so if I press the O1, or sorry, UI hotbar 1, I want to, for now I'll just say pass, but we'll be wanting to do something. So what we actually can do, since we already have, okay, we have reference for the panel, and what we can do is just have a export variable for the inventory, which is of type inventory. And then whenever I press a button, I already know the index of the slot that I'm trying to press, since, you know, there's only 8. So yeah, I could just technically say inventory dot item container, and then I would get the index of 31, which is the first slot, dot item, sorry, item container dot item slots, and then the 31 dot item dot use. There's actually 37 items in an array, right? So I would get 30 here, and then 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37. Let's hope I did that right. So that should technically allow me to use an item from the hotbar. So if I pick up an item, I'll fix this 0. I know what the problem is. If I press 1, okay. Oh, it's called use item and not use. Okay. Let's try it again. If I drag here, press 1, used item, but did it remove it? Let me just quickly check. Because the consumable item, oh yeah, you know why? Because I didn't assign the action data thingy. Because whenever I use a consumable item, it takes the action data current selected slot, and I have to just set this to what it is in the thing. So whenever I use an item, I would say action data, which I don't have here. Action data that current selected slot is equal to 30, like that. And again for the every single other one. So if I do this 1, and it works, amazing. So now we can use items from our hotbar. I want to add something else to this because I'm using the same slot inventory for the hotbar as I am for the actual inventory. I want to add a new text, rich text label, and this would be the key that I need to press. So it would be text key. Yeah, and now it works. Okay, so now we have the keys also showing, and in the inventory they're not shown. Cool. Okay, and now the next step would be to create the rest of the consumable items. Okay, now that the items are working, I wanted to do something else for the consumable items, since right now you can't really see what the item does. It just has a description. And I want to change that. So I want to put these health, stamina, hunger, and thirst values into the hover over menu thingy. So I just made 4 new variables that are a string with a certain font and size, and then they do health and the value of health. Now I just have to save them to this array. And then I can just return info texts. And that should hopefully work. It does, but it doesn't fit inside of it, so we'll have to think about that. So I got something to work. Currently, I think it should scale now with the text. Yeah. So whatever I have in here, it should expand based on that, and if I have less, it will just go to a minimum size. How do I do this? I'm not sure. I have a panel inside a margin, inside of something, and then the text has fit to scale. I'm not even sure what I'm doing, but I'm pretty sure it's working. So now we can see all our... What the fuck? Yeah, now it fits. Cool. That only took me an hour playing with this. An hour, and the BB code that I couldn't set. And now that I've got this done, I can finally move on to the weapons. And for that, we'll need a new item type of a weapon item. We're going to override our get item description and use item methods, and we also need it to be a class. So for now, the use method will just be the same as the inventory item, and the item description prints back a name, description, type, and damage. Damage is of course of type int, and the type is of weapon type, which can either be melee or range, so it's an enum. Weapon item, and this would be weapon. I think machete is the one I did originally as the first weapon. And yeah, I can just change if it's a melee or range. Cool. Let's say 50 damage, name is machete. Sharp object known as a machete. Great description. Max stack is 1, and that seems cool. So now we got our first weapon. Let's make that as an item so we can check if the hover info works on it. I gotta say, the really annoying thing is that you can't move scenes from their original folder. It's so annoying because sometimes it just places it, you know, somewhere else by default, and then you can't move it. Oh, yeah. And now we have machete. If we use it, nothing happens, but we have a machete. I also want to fix some things. For example, this 0 that's happening. And now it's not happening anymore. Cool. I want to get into actually using the weapon, and for that we're going to need some kind of an equipment manager that's going to spawn a weapon inside of our player's hands. And if you watch the original video, you know we can't name it a equipment manager, we have to name it equipment controller. Inherits from Node 3D, and that should be fine. Okay, so I've done all the logic. So in handle weapon use, pretty much whenever we use an item, we want to see if there's already an item equipped or a weapon equipped. So we check if current weapon is not equal to null, and if it isn't, we set the last weapon to the current weapon and the current weapon to the new weapon. We spawn the current weapon, which is actually the new weapon, and we hide it because we're going to show it inside the animation at a certain frame. My phone won't shut up. And if there's no new weapon equipped, we just spawn the weapon and hide it. And this is where the animation will go, but I'm not sure how I'll do that yet. So for now, we're just going to spawn it without animation. Spawn weapon sets the current weapon equal to the weapon that we're trying to spawn. We add the child to the weapon holder, and the weapon item now has a scene variable, which is a prefab of a sort of the weapon that we want to spawn. And then we set the current weapon object equal to getChild0. This weapon object is always going to have only one child, so I'm pretty sure this is safe to do. Showing weapon goes to the current weapon.object.visible and sets it to true, and the hide weapon sets it to false. And whenever we destroy weapon, we check if last weapon is not equal to null. So if we're switching a weapon, we destroyed the last weapon object, set it to null, and then if the last weapon is null, then we just do that to the current weapon object. Quite simple, if it makes sense. I don't know. Now, how I will get these functions inside the item, I'm not sure, but I think I'll need a singleton for the equipment controller. And I think we can do that using the autoload. And I want to add my equipment controller. Can't add LML name, must not collide with an existing global script. Class name. Oh, it can be a class if it's a... Okay, I get that. Equipment controller add. Okay, and this should allow me to use it as a singleton inside the weapon item. So in the use function, equipment controller, and then I can use the functions. Amazing, that's actually really simple, much simpler than in Unity. Now I should be able to say super.use item. I'm fine with that because that's just gonna debug, and I should be able to say handle weapon use self whenever I use an item. But I will also need that unused item function, but that will be done inside the animation. So I'm pretty sure now if we used a weapon item, it should do something. So the player is gonna need a new node 3D, or is actually gonna need 2 of them. And then we should be able to say equipment controller, and we have the only reference, which is to the weapon holder. The thing is, the weapon holder needs to be inside the player scene. Okay, there seems to be a bone attachment or something. Bone attachment 3D. I know that dynamically copies or overrides the 3D transfer of a bone and its parent. Is that it? Does this follow the bone that I give it? So hand.r override pose no. Let me just go to my equipment controller and get this reference in the ready function. Yeah, my bad. I'm passing it a current weapon here, but if this gets not called, it's just null. So I need to pass it a new weapon. My bad. Hey, it's working. Wait. Shut the fuck up, music. Look, it's working. Cool, okay, fucking finally. If you're thinking about it now, whenever I spawn a weapon, I don't have to get child here. I could just use weapon node. Because it's the same instance, I think. I really don't know why this is not working, because it worked once and now it just decided that it's not going to. What the fuck? Well, I think it actually works. It's just, I don't know if you can see in the bottom right hand corner a weapon. Oh yeah, you can see the shadow. Okay, it's just not in the right place and I'm not sure how the fuck I'm gonna make it in the right place. Yeah, maybe that's correct, but how do I copy the transform now? Do I have to write it down on a piece of paper? Or can I... Yeah, I can. Copy value. I can only copy one value at a time. Man, that's annoying. Fine, I'll write down the values on a piece of paper. This is the it's like I don't have a PC. It's like I'm working on paper here. Making a game on paper. Let's see maybe if it works now. I sure hope so, because I don't have much in me left, man. I don't have left much in me. I don't have much in me left. I just said every possible part of that sentence. Yeah, as you can see, my brain is stopping to work. And it's not coming to work and stopping. It's just stopping to work. And let's see it now. Where the fuck are you now? Oh, I have to press it twice for some reason. It's in my hand. It's a bit too big. But for some reason I had to press it twice. Not even sure why that is. Try it again and wait for 5 minutes for it to start up. Yeah, that seems about right. Cool. So we can spawn a weapon. Okay, what the fuck do I do now? Let's add the animation actually. I'll think about the other thing later on. Let's add the animation. So all of this would be one blend tree. And then we would have a different one. This is like, I can't explain to you how much this annoys me, because you have all this great fucking stuff and then I can't copy and paste these nodes. Is that so hard to make? Fine, I'll use this. Like, is it, if I do this, is it so hard to unplug the other one and then... Cool. Now, please launch immediately. Oh, you're so annoying. You're so annoying. You're so fucking annoying. Because it was working completely fine to one point, and then I did absolutely nothing to do this. Okay, now it has the holding thingies. And if I equip a weapon, which will not equip immediately, this is how it looks. And now I gotta wait for 30 fucking minutes for this to load. Fuck you. You know what? I was gonna do some more now, but I ain't going to. Somebody said to set it to use more cores. And it's probably a good idea. But you know what? I'm so annoyed, I don't even want to do that. Yeah, that works fine. I like it. Yeah, it seems like I can't even unequip because I want to do it a different way where I do it inside the animation event. I'm not even sure that there are animation events in this, but you know what? Fuck it. I'll just wait till tomorrow. New brain, new everything. Because this is so annoying. I might actually just make a couple of new weapons and that's it. But yeah, this really fucking annoying that it loads up for so long just because at some point it decided to do so. And I get it. It's open source. It's not like this big professional thing, but I don't know. Same as the UI. UI is just really annoying. But then also, I'm not really smart, so there's that. Yes, so now we can equip weapons. Woohoo, yay. I'm actually genuinely excited. I'm not being a bitch here. But yeah, I guess until the next update. Bye now.